This is Sports Center All Night. Here's Jay Reynolds.
New Year's Day was Sunday, the sports world giving us a full plate of action for Monday. From the Rose Bowl parade in the game, the NHL's Winter Classic, to Monday Night Football. Yet all of that was thrust to the back seat when the focus shifted to life in the first quarter of that Monday Night Football game. First quarter of the game between the Bills and the Bengals. Cincinnati with a pass over the middle to T. Higgins. He was hit by Bills safety Damar Hamlin. Football play. Hard football hit, but a football play. And Hamlin got up quickly. But once he was up, he abruptly collapsed. It was at that point, athletic trainers, medical personnel jumped right in with an obvious sense of urgency. Multiple players visibly distressed, comforting each other as Hamlin was being tended to on the field. He was being given CPR. After lengthy care on the field, almost 20 minutes, Hamlin was taken away by ambulance with his family, which had come down from the stands. The teams left the field, the NFL ultimately postponing the game. Damar Hamlin was taken to the hospital, listed in critical condition. ESPN analyst Ryan Clark.
This happens in this game all the time. We've seen hits that look like car crashes, and we cart guys off, or guys go into the tent, and then the next snap takes place. And the standard, as Coach Tomlin would say, is the standard. This isn't standard.
No.
This isn't normal. This isn't move the football 10 yards and allow these guys to play again. When you see men who have spent their whole life understanding that you don't make the club in the tub, understanding that the best ability is availability, all of these things that they say, you get used to that. And so for over 100 grown adult men who their entire lives have put on pads and understood the risk you take every time you do it, to be speechless, to be in tears, to be gathered in prayer, that tells you how significant this moment was. Not only for Damar Hamlin, who it's the most significant for his mom that had to come out of the stand so she could go to the hospital with him, to even now Cincinnati Bengals fans understanding that this is bigger than football. This is bigger than Lombardi trophies. This is life.
Yeah.
And there aren't many jobs in the world that we don't consider life-threatening, right? Like, we understand, like, the first responders and what they give for us and what they do and the risk that they accept and they take, and that's why we praise them so highly. But when we put these pads on, all we think about is the millions of dollars.
Yep.
All we think about is the accolades. All we think about is the applause.
Well, entertain us, right? I mean, that's what you're meant to do. You're meant to go out there and entertain us in the fantasy football, and that's all understood, right? Because it is entertaining, and it does matter to people. But your point's well taken that this is an entirely different portion of the conversation.
How do they move on from this?
I don't know, and I don't know. That's the part tonight that was so evident that. Let's work through this. Like, what are they going to do it tomorrow? I mean, I have no idea. And I mean, frankly, again, as we speak, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care when they play football.
If the NFL cares about the players, this is the first time I believe the NFL truly had to care about the players' emotional and mental health as well. This is the first time we got to watch those emotions. We got to watch that type of thought process right in front of us.
In real time.
Right? We never get to see that.
Because it had to happen.
To watch a man truly go lifeless, though, Scott, right? That's something, like, we've seen people knocked out. We've seen bad hits. We saw the Tua. We remember how we reacted to the Tua situation that happened right on the same field. This was even different from that. I know the NFL is a big business, and the NFL has to continue doing business, and the NFL has to continue entertaining. But if the NFL doesn't send somebody into these locker rooms, if the NFL isn't flying people to Cincinnati right now or to Buffalo or wherever they're going right now, they are missing the point. The point is, make sure these men are all right, and then you can play football. What's important is Damar Hamlin.
Damar Hamlin's agent issuing a statement just before midnight Eastern time, quote, "Please continue to pray for Damar and his family. We currently have no update at this time. We ask that you keep the family in your prayers." This is Sports Center All Night, ESPN Radio. More than 65,000 people in the stadium for the game Monday night. And the place as you would expect, was in stunned silence. All of this, a situation that played out in real time on the field, and it made for one incredibly emotional night. ESPN's Lisa Salters was on the sidelines at field level.
It's hard because this is a human being, and all you can really think about is, I hope that guy is okay. We've seen players go down with head injuries before, and as horrible as that may sound, we've grown accustomed to it. Seeing guys take hard hits, see them stay down for a little while, get back up, give the thumbs up, and that's all we were all hoping for, was that Damar Hamlin was going to get up and that he was going to get on in that ambulance. He was going to give us a thumbs up, and we were all going to know that he was okay. And when that didn't happen, I think this entire stadium was just devastated. I mean, right now, all I can really think about is that player, his teammates, just seeing the agony on their faces, the concern on their faces. We all should be. But to see them hugging each other, down on their knees, praying for him, his coach, the other team, their head coach, those players, just to see how much unity and just unified concern that they all had for this young man. It's been overwhelming. There's a pall over the stadium right now. You come to work, we're expecting to see the game of the season, and what we got was so terrible.
It struck me that there was an urgency with which the medical personnel were moving that was atypical, and that was so concerning because it's their job to know, is someone hurt or injured? In this case, is someone in distress? And I wonder if you just, as you replay what was happening, what was your sense of how dire the circumstances were?
Yeah, it was when all of the players came out onto the field and took a knee. The entire Bills bench emptied and was out on the field. And the way that the players, all of the players, the Bills and the Bengals, the way they formed a human wall around Damar Hamlin, that let me know there that this was not just another injury, that there were things going on behind that human wall that we shouldn't be seeing. They were trying to respect that young man's privacy, and rightfully so. So that was when I realized immediately that this was not just another injury, that this was something very, very serious.
I have an appreciation for the fact that there's so much going on here that initially there was a sense that maybe they'd take 5 minutes and get loose and play. And as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking there's no possible way that that's going to happen. And it seems to me, Lisa, that it was Taylor and McDermott and their respective players who essentially threw up their hands and said, no, we're not.
Well, initially, like you said, it seemed as if the players were just going to take some time and to process this and to try to regroup and refocus. I saw Stephon Diggs. Well, first we saw Sean McDermott call his team together.
Right.
That the Bills all got down on a knee. And we don't know what he said to them, but it appeared as if he was trying to refocus his team. And then Stephon Diggs did the same thing. He was yelling, guys, come on. Because players were just sitting on the bench, just looking completely shell-shocked and devastated, and rightfully so. But all of the team got together on the Bills sideline. Stephon Diggs, I could hear him rallying the troops. I could hear him encouraging them, telling them that let's go, let's refocus. But then after that, the players just kind of went back to what they were doing before, which was to be emotionally distraught. Players went back to the bench. They went back to hugging each other. They went back to taking their knees to their knee. Some guys had towels on their faces, and they were just openly sobbing into their towels. So at that point, it started to become clear that this is not something that these players are going to get over. They're not going to be wanting to play another down anytime soon. And you talked about the unity between players on both teams. It continued back in the hallways of the stadium when Bengals players in still full uniform were coming to the Bills locker room. Bills players started to come out, and they were hugging and shaking hands, and you could hear players saying, I'm sorry. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow came back here. Josh Allen, they shared a big hug, and Joe Burrow walked away looking devastated. So it doesn't really matter whose team Damar Hamlin plays for. These players were all unified, just in the trauma and just the worry and the emotion that they were all feeling tonight.
ESPN's Lisa Salters during what was obviously an emotional night as Monday Night Football was halted. SportsCenter All Night, presented by Progressive Insurance. It was about an hour after the injury that the NFL officially announced that the game was indeed being postponed. Commissioner Roger Goodell making the announcement via a statement. He noted in the statement Hamlin received immediate medical attention on the field by both team and independent medical staff and local paramedics, then transported to a local hospital. The NFL saying in the statement, quote, "Our thoughts are with Damar and the Buffalo Bills. We will provide more information as it becomes available." The NFL has been in constant communication with the NFL Players Association, which is in agreement with postponing the game. The NFL ultimately held a conference call late Monday into Tuesday morning. ESPN's Ben Baby.
I listened to the beginning of it, and the general consensus that we got from Troy Vincent, the league executive, that the number one concern for all parties involved here in Cincinnati was the health and safety of Damar Hamlin. Troy Vincent talks about the collaboration that continued throughout the situation with the league office, with those on the sideline, with the coaches, players, executives. And the one thing that stood out as they got the pulse of the players and coaches was making sure that everybody felt comfortable about continuing on and what the process, process was going to look like throughout the course of the evening. And the number one thing, like I said, was Damar Hamlin's safety. Troy Vincent referenced his playing time in the league, and he said he has never seen anything like that. We are gathering more information from the league as we speak. Buffalo is headed back tonight, but some players will stay here in Cincinnati at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center trying to figure out what is next. They obviously lots of concern. We've seen those who were involved in the game. Coley Harvey spotted Stefon Diggs, Zach Taylor here at the hospital checking in. It shows the level of concern, and the league expressed that greatly, noting that the competitive nature of the game was not even a thought as they figured out how to proceed given tonight's events.
And it proceeded in real time as we all watched on ESPN, the Monday Night Football. The injury happened just before 9 o'clock Eastern time, and the work continued on the field until the game was suspended at about 9:18 Eastern time. At 9:25 is when the ambulance left, and then it was 10 o'clock Eastern time that the NFL officially postponed the Monday Night Football game in Cincinnati with the Bengals and the Bills over the concern of Damar Hamlin. We'll have more reaction as SportsCenter All Night continues. It's ESPN Radio.
This is SportsCenter All Night.
$717-4599. That's 800-717-4599. 800-717-4599.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Transitioning out of the military, it's difficult. Just about everything around you changes. I would get phone calls that brothers were dying, some of them to suicide. And I'd found myself in another cold cemetery. And I started to wonder if I was next. It's a struggle to know that you're facing challenges, but not be ready to face them. Sleep doesn't come easy. And when it comes, it doesn't last long. You're tired all the time. I didn't reach out for that help, but thank God my wife did. She got me registered for Wounded Warrior Project. Talking to somebody that would listen to me and understood my story helped me realize that it was time to change. There's a new fight, there's a new mission, and that's something I'm eternally grateful for.
See how we help warriors combat stigma at woundedwarriorproject.org/combat stigma.
You are never too old for a family. The Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption is dedicated to finding forever families for children who have been waiting in foster care the longest. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundidouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Hey, it's Sedano. Happy New Year. Don't miss the return of Sedano and Cap for a whole new year, Tuesday, January 3rd at 4 p.m. on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN. Sports Center all night continues with Jay Reynolds.
The spotlight squarely on Cincinnati Monday night, and rightfully so. But of note in Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, a 71-point night for the Cavs in their overtime win. That was among 11 NBA games for the holiday on Monday. Bowl games, Penn State win over Utah at the Rose Bowl. Bruins winning the NHL's Winter Classic. You can find details of all of them on the ESPN app and, of course, ESPN.com. But all the fun, all the games that sports usually gives us, shoved aside when we got midway through the first quarter of Monday Night Football. Bills safety Damar Hamlin collapsing on the field after making a tackle. He received treatment on the field, CPR, AED, the defibrillator, ultimately taken away by ambulance. The team tweeting just before 2 a.m. Eastern time that Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest following that hit on the play. The team saying in the tweet that his heartbeat was restored on the field and he was transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment. He's currently sedated and listed in critical condition. ESPN analyst Booger McFarland.
We play a violent game, and you just hate to see it. That's all. I just pray for the young man, pray for his family right now. That's all I can say. All I know how to do right now.
Well, when a teammate is down, and then the game is expected to resume, how as a player do you gather yourself?
I've never been in that situation. I don't even know if any of these players are thinking about that right now. I think by the look on their faces, they're all concerned about their teammate, because their teammate on the field is bigger than whatever's going to happen at some point on the field. The well-being of their teammate is bigger than whatever the outcome of this game is going to be. The health and well-being of our brother on the field is the most important thing.
Obviously, the players on the field were concerned. You could see it on their faces. The concern, though, went far beyond the field of play. ESPN insider Adam Schefter saying the level of concern was evident immediately.
This felt different
What's that?
than anything that we've seen in modern times. There have been other incidents in other NFL games involving other NFL players. This one had a particularly chilling, jarring, frightening feel to it. And all you had to do was look down to that field to get an idea of what was going on.
Those involved on the field, obviously concerned, not the least of whom would be Hamlin's teammates with the Bills, especially once Hamlin was taken to the hospital, which is where ESPN's Coley Harvey would be.
I did have that moment to speak with the receiver, Bills receiver, Stephon Diggs, and he essentially expressed how how much he needed to be here. You just heard from Adam Schefter saying that so many people around the NFL, around this team, are desperate to know anything about Damar Hamlin's status, and that's exactly what I got from Stefon Diggs. I actually walked with him towards the medical center. I could only go so far. He got to a cop, and the cop initially was not going to let him in, but he said, "This is my teammate. I have to be here for my teammate. This is so frustrating right now. We just want to know what the news is on our guy." And the cop just basically kind of let him go at that point. I actually had to vouch for him and explain exactly who he was. That just, again, not just that desperation, but that frustration from the people who are closest to Damar Hamlin, that they don't have the news at this point. We can tell you, again, is the statement persons from the hot reporters who are staged here at some point this evening. It was right now exactly when that will be. Hopefully it will be moments away. We're also seeing fans of both teams, the Bills and the Bengals, showing up. I had a chance to listen to a few Bengals fans who were here earlier saying, hey, this is more than football. This is about humanity and showing the respect that needs to be given to someone who goes down in the fashion that we witnessed tonight. Beyond football, Scott, and I know that's a sentiment that's been echoed all throughout the show tonight. And yeah, my thoughts are certainly with Damar myself.
Coley, how far away is the stadium from the hospital? I'm just trying to put this together in my mind to see Stefon Diggs is walking in there. How far away are we talking about from stadium to hospital?
Not very far. In fact, Scott, I covered the Cincinnati Bengals for ESPN a few years ago, lived not far from this hospital, so I can tell you that it's on a normal drive about 10 minutes. Obviously, in an ambulance, you would expect that'd be a lot faster. It's about 2 miles away from Paycor Stadium, so the distance was fairly short to certainly getting him here.
Damar Hamlin receiving treatment on the field for 16 minutes. Obviously, a situation during a game, Monday Night Football, that no one involved would have a procedure manual as to how to handle such a dire situation like that. Our Stephen A. Smith with Scott Van Pelt.
It seemed to me, and again, as I've said for the hours that we've been on here, you know, it's real time, and so you try not to speculate, but it certainly appeared to me, Stephen, that, you know, they're going to try to play this game, and then it seems to me that McDermott and Taylor and the teams are like, the hell we are. Like, no, we're not. And it seemed like the common sense play came from the men that were going to be asked to play, that they were in no position to do so. And I applaud both sides because it seemed to be a completely unified thing. And again, I'm speculating from where I sat, but that's what I was observing. And I just applaud them for that because they seem to have the clarity that this game cannot go on tonight. Is that the way you felt?
That's the way that I felt, but I want to be fair to people outside of those players who may have thought along those lines, just to provide this perspective. The players on the field know because they're the participants. They're the ones that are on the field. They're the ones putting their bodies on the line. They're the ones that are visualizing and literally feeling the impact that takes place, the kind of stuff that we only talk about and we read about and we hear about. So in their case, when you get it, the flip side to it is that if you're watching football, just a few weeks ago, we forget that on this very same field, Tua Tagovailoa had to be removed.
Right.
He was on the turf, and it almost looked, I mean, he looked, I mean, it was scary.
Without a doubt.
He looked, no question. And the game went on then. So what you're thinking, okay, they're performing CPR, you get them in the ambulance, and what you're waiting for is to hear them say, he's been revived, he's communicating, he's okay, we can go on with the game. Nobody in their right mind thought that this game should go on if that didn't happen. But you were surmising that because the doctors were there, they were on the scene, and they had conducted CPR, and they got him to the ambulance, and his mother was there, that somehow, some way over the next 15 to 20 minutes, you would hear good news. But I think everybody knows the minute that didn't happen, a game wasn't going to take place.
Damar Hamlin receiving CPR and AED on the field. The team tweeting early Tuesday that his heartbeat was restored on the field. He's in the hospital receiving testing and treatment. They say he's currently sedated and listed in critical condition. SportsCenter All Night continues. It's ESPN Radio.
710 ESPN.
Hey, it's Mace. Happy New Year as we get ready for 2023, otherwise known as Year of the Mace. Don't forget to make this New Year's resolution. Spend every afternoon with Mason in Ireland. We talk LA sports, Lakers, Dodgers, Rams, USC, plus plenty of stupid stuff and screwing around. Mason in Ireland, 1 to 4, right here on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN.
The Hoop Collective Podcast.
I'm at our ESPN LA studios. You may remember that Bev did a couple of days of work for ESPN last year.
No, I remember. I was on with him.
He left a gorgeous Dolce & Gabbana suit here that is just spectacular.
You should wear it on TV today, Brian.
I do not believe it will fit me, only because the arms are too long. You're across the street. Come over and get it. It's got to be at least a $7,000 suit.
The Hoop Collective Podcast. Listen on the ESPN app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Camp Lejeune Justice is responsible for the content of this ad. Attention Marines, military, contractors, and family members stationed at Camp Lejeune for 30 days or longer between August 1953 and December of 1987. For 34 years, those at Camp Lejeune were exposed to contaminated drinking water, resulting in devastating injuries. Passage of the Camp Lejeune Justice Act of 2022 would allow victims to seek compensation for illnesses and injuries linked to the toxic water.
For a free consultation, call 800-210-0859. That's 800-210-0859.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, that frog will boil. As a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans, it's a story that rings true. We learn to endure the heat in silence. We apply what we learn to life, the bills, the job, the family, things we're expected to handle with ease. When life heats up around us, we just try to stay afloat. We let the water boil. Reaching out isn't easy, but you've never been interested in easy. You join because you are not afraid of hard work. You are not a frog. If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait until the water boils. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
I spent a lot of time in the garage, but even more time in the rain and mud. In 95, I helped tow your moving trailer. And in 09, it was sparks from me, your chains, dragging behind your truck that accidentally started a wildfire.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the sheep sleep tonight. Oh, in the jungle, the quiet jungle, the sheep sleeps tonight. Oh,
It just isn't the same without the lion. Join the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance today. Visit stzwa.org.
Hey, it's Travis. Don't miss the return of Travis and Sliwa for a whole new year, Tuesday, January 3rd at 10 a.m. right here on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN.
Sports Center All Night continues with Jay Reynolds.
71 points in an NBA game. That's the most we've seen in 17 years. Donovan Mitchell does it for the Cavs in their win Monday. Most points in a game by any player since Kobe Bryant had 81 against Toronto back in 2006. Number one, Purdue loses again to Rutgers. Second straight year. Thrilling finish to the Winter Classic at Fenway as the Bruins hang on. Rose Bowl won by Penn State. A lot going on Monday, but nothing bigger than the dire situation we had in Monday Night Football. There have been countless gruesome injuries in sports across different sports. Baseball players being hit by pitches, hockey players even being cut by a skate. On the football field, there are injuries that stick with us, whether it's that hit on Joe Theismann from a generation ago, Ryan Shazier on Monday Night Football 5 years ago. This Monday, we had a football play that leapfrogged injury and went straight to dire. Even Ryan Shazier sent prayers on social media. ESPN analyst Booger McFarland.
We break bones. We have surgeries. We get concussions. And like as football players, we're conditioned to deal with those things. Like that's a part of our game. When you bring CPR out, you're trying to help someone breathe. We're talking life or death now. That's totally different than anything that I've ever been used to dealing with on the field. I've never seen it on the field. Like that's real. Like this is what we do is just a game. When you involve life and death, it's totally different. And those players feel that. Everybody in that stadium feels that. Both teams feel that. That's something. Again, the rule is when we go compete, we're going to compete, and then we're going to go home to our families. When we involve life and death, and that's tough.
And the concern was all about Bills safety, Damar Hamlin. In the first quarter of the game between the Bills and Bengals, Cincinnati had a pass over the middle to T. Higgins. He was hit by Damar Hamlin. Football play, hard football hit, but a football play. Hamlin got up, but once he was up, he abruptly collapsed. And it was at that point, trainers, medical personnel all jumped in with an obvious sense of urgency. Multiple players visibly distressed, comforting each other as Hamlin was being tended to on the field. The team tweeting early Tuesday that Hamlin had suffered cardiac arrest following the hit. They said his heartbeat was restored on the field. He received CPR. The AED was used. The team saying in the tweet his heartbeat was restored. He was transferred to UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment, currently sedated, listed in critical condition. After that lengthy care on the field, Hamlin was taken away by ambulance with his family. Mom had come down from the stands. The teams left the field. The NFL ultimately postponed the game. Hamlin was taken to the hospital, critical condition. ESPN insider Adam Schefter.
It's certainly not a common occurrence. It's certainly not one that we're used to seeing with any degree of regularity. And when you see something like that happen, it does not take but a moment to recognize the severity of the situation and the type of situation that we're dealing with. You see Stefon Diggs with tears coming down his cheeks, rolling down there. And again, it becomes something where everybody's waiting for the sporting event to where it becomes this enormous news story, national news story that everybody is tuned into and everybody wants an update on. Look, me, Booger McFarland, Susie Colbert, we're sitting up here hoping and praying for the young man like everybody else. And the phone keeps buzzing with doctors sending in updates. Everybody becomes a doctor. Everybody's diagnosing him. Yeah. Everybody's weighing in because everybody cares. And everybody wants to express their thoughts on the situation, which is how you see all those thoughts pour out on social media, all the thoughts for him right now. And until you know how he's doing, it doesn't even make sense to talk about how and when they can resume this football game. I agree. Matters most of all. Yeah,
I totally agree. And frankly, it doesn't make any sense to talk about I mean, I get that this is what we do. People see it and say, it looks like this. It could have been that. Well, all I've been trying to do since we've come on is tell you what we know. And that's the best that any of us can do is share what we know as we know it. Go ahead, Jeff, one last thought.
Yeah, and there are all things. So now everybody's getting to know Damar Hamlin on social media in a way that they didn't know him before. There are people that knew him, but not the way they do right now. There is a toy drive that he initiated where his goal was to raise $2,500. And tonight, I think that total is over $750,000 as we speak, because people are pulling for him and want to do what they can to support him and his friends and family. They are desperate to reach out and pull this man through and hope that he's okay from this situation that was chilling and scary and frightening for everybody who watched it unfold on ABC. It's one of those things that you always remember seeing on national TV, and you just pray that the young man is going to be okay.
ESPN's Adam Schefter. And in the time since Hamlin's collapse, just before 9 p.m. Eastern time. That toy drive that Adam Schefter referenced has just seen donations pouring in. As Adam mentioned, the initial goal was $2,500. $2,500. Donations have surpassed the $3 million mark. SportsCenter All Night, ESPN Radio. Also, as Adam mentioned, there was obvious concern on the field, immediate concern. ESPN analyst Ryan Clark.
It's the most afraid I've ever been watching a football game. It was the first time that football, a game that so many, and I said it earlier, so many cliches are used about what you're willing to give this game. You know, we hear guys always say, I'll die for this, or, you know, I'll give my life for this. We may have watched a player actually do that tonight. And I said this coming up the elevator, that usually when you see a guy stand up, he stays up. We're talking about the most fit, the most physical, the most macho, the healthiest men in the world. And he takes what looks like a routine hit. He falls back to the ground. And when you watch someone fall to the ground lifeless, that's different than seeing someone with head trauma. That's different than seeing someone who hurts their ACL. And when you see Cincinnati Bengals players and Buffalo Bills players, all with tears in their eyes, all dropping to their knees and saying prayers, we are talking about men who have been conditioned to ignore injury, conditioned to ignore pain, conditioned to understand that if we watch one of our brothers fall, we can move the football up 10 yards and we're going to start the next play of practice. Or when we watch one of our brothers being carted off, we're going to start the ball and somebody's going to blow a whistle and we're going to play again. There was no more playing again tonight, Eve. There was no more next play. Because for Damar Hamlin, there may not ever be a next play. For Damar Hamlin, they may not ever be another breath. These men tonight, in all their years of football, saw something they had never seen. Everybody is going through this right now. Damar Hamlin's mother, Nina, had to come down out of the stands and ride to the hospital with her baby. Yeah, I know he's 24 years old, but it's never going to change what he means to her. This is about a brother. This is about a son. This is about a cousin. This is about a homeboy. This is about a teammate. This isn't about a football player. The lives of Damar Hamlin and his family, the lives of the Buffalo Bills, the lives of the Cincinnati Bengals are forever changed tonight in a split second. That's how fast it can happen. And so something that you've always wanted to do your entire life, something that you've loved, something that you said to everybody around you, I would give anything to have this. We saw Damar Hamlin do that. And all I can say, looking at the faces of all those players, thinking about my reaction, is that we were not ready for this. We were not prepared for this. When you decided to prepare for this show and talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and talk about the Buffalo Bills, you were ready to talk about Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. You were ready to talk about these great defenses. You were not ready to talk about a 24-year-old young man possibly losing his life. And I said this on the phone tonight in my room, talking to Marcus Spears. I said at 24, I didn't even know I could die.
You guys are also conditioned to compartmentalize, as you just laid out. Here is a situation where the range of emotions in a relatively short period of time were a roller coaster ride for both teams involved. First, you see a player go down, he's like, oh, he gets up, he's cool. All of a sudden, no, he's not cool. Now it's dire. Now we're going to get a 5-minute warning before we're going to start playing this game again. You know what? No, we're not going to play this game again. We don't know what's up with our homeboy as he's going to the hospital. Now, are we flying home tonight? Give me an idea of what impact that has from an emotional standpoint, from a mental capacity, going through all of that in a short period of time.
We're not emotionally equipped to handle this, right? Like we're struggling to do a job talking about what happened to Damar Hamlin tonight. And so imagine being his teammate. Imagine spending more time with Damar Hamlin than you do your own family. Sean McDermott sees Damar Hamlin more than he sees his own children, more than he sees his own wife during this time. These are all men that spend time together, growing together, making sure that one another is all right, doing whatever you have to do for your brother. And you are now put in the hopeless position of being absolutely helpless. There is nothing that anyone in a Bills uniform, nothing that anyone in a Bills hat can do to help Damar Hamlin. And you have to live with that. As a man who has built himself up both emotionally, mentally, physically, to be the baddest dude in the world, whenever asked to be the baddest dude in the world, you have somebody you genuinely love and you can't do anything to help him. You have to watch as he can't even breathe for himself. That's not what we're prepared to deal with, Eves. I've seen ACLs. I've seen broken legs. I've seen dudes' face masks get cut off their helmets and they get strapped down the tables. And I'm thinking and waiting for the thumbs up because I know if you give me the thumbs up, at least you're okay enough. Damar Hamlin couldn't do any of those things. And he's 24 years old. He woke up to play a game. For him, this was just about going out and living a dream. Right? He started 14 games this year. He didn't think he'd be in this position, but it's all he's ever wanted to do. And you're getting that opportunity on prime time. And I've played this sport, Ease. All you ever think about is the good stuff. No one ever visualizes the bad. They don't teach us this. We don't talk about this. We don't converse about this. They're not trying to build us up enough so that this is okay because it's actually not okay.
Josh Allen tweeting, please pray for our brother. Countless messages of support hitting social media. The team tweeting, Bills Mafia is with you. The team would also later confirm via a tweet that Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest following the hit on the field, and that treatment on the field was able to restore his heartbeat. The team saying he's sedated at the hospital in critical condition. Sports Center All Night, ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $700 on average. Call or click today. Find out if they could save you hundreds on your car insurance. It was certainly a constant flow of information hitting the Dr. Pepper line Monday as the story unfolded in real time. You heard the emotion in Ryan Clark's voice. He called it the most scared he's been watching a football game. Our Stephen A. Smith concurs.
I was scared to death. To see him get up and then fall back down.
Right.
It was scary. You know, we've been watching the NFL, covering the NFL for decades, Scott, and we've seen concussions. We've seen people sit still, scared that they may have been paralyzed because they've gotten hit and what have you. I don't recall ever seeing anything like this. To see him make a tackle, to get up, and then literally collapse, that his legs start shaking and what have you. It was just, you're not trying to be too vivid. You're just trying to make sure you accurately depict in real time what you witnessed. And, you know, it was scary. It was incredibly sad to see the players crying, the Stephon Diggs of the world and others, Josh Allen having to be consoled by Joe Burrow and others. You just know that it just reminds you, we hear so much as reporters, as commentators, as pundits, as people who get paid to chronicle this league and the tremendous athletes that bless, you know, this league with their presence. We constantly talk about, or we hear about them talking about family, and then you see something like this and you realize how real it is. Not that we didn't know, obviously, covering these sports for so many years, but to witness it and to witness the camaraderie and the love and the concern that was in the faces, written all over the faces and the bodies of everybody involved, particularly every member of the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals. It's just a harsh reminder of the violence that exists in this sport, how a play, we all know that a play can end a career, a play can end a season, but it's rare that you contemplate the notion that it can end somebody's life.
Concern throughout the sports world and beyond following the situation that unfolded in real time on Monday Night Football. Damar Hamlin in the hospital, sedated, critical condition for the Bills. We have a guy who's now within 500 points of an all-time record, but that's not what he was talking about Monday, and you'll hear it next. Sports Center All Night continues. It's ESPN Radio.
More Sports Center All Night next.
710 ESPN. It's Key. Happy New Year as we get ready for 2023. Don't forget to make the New Year's resolution to start each weekday with my show, the best football talk in LA. Plus, Lakers, Dodgers, and USC. Keyshawn in the morning, 6 to 10 a.m. Right here on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN.
Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Help us fight youth homelessness. Go to covenanthouse.org.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Tom and Levi.
Tom is the smartest man I know. He's been a professor at 2 major universities, been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, he told me that he was having problems in his classes. I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. And he was telling them that he was doing it as a favor to them, but I think in reality he just wanted to get out of there. I was really starting to worry because I saw something was wrong.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me, and my love for him was just immense.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Once upon a time, our family had trouble with pests around our home. Did you know that stinging insects send tons of people to the hospital? And teeny ticks and mosquitoes can be all around the yard. Their bites can make people and their pets sick. Mice, rats, and roaches need food and water just like us. You do not want them to visit. They can spread disease and make it hard to breathe. I'm sure glad this story has a happy ending.
Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association.
Every second counts in a poison emergency. That's why Poison Help is standing by 24/7 to provide free assistance in over 100 languages. Save Poison Help as a contact in your phone today. Poison Help, 1-800-222-1222.
SEC Network. It's Key. Happy New Year. Don't miss the return of Keyshawn in the morning for a whole new year. Thursday, January 5th at 6 a.m. right here on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN.
Sports Center All Night continues with Jay Reynolds.
Monday certainly didn't end well for sports fans, but there were highlights to take in earlier in the day. All of it's on ESPN.com and the ESPN app. The Rose Bowl win for Penn State. The Bruins win at the Winter Classic. The 11 NBA games, including a 71-point night for Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland. Most anybody's had in an NBA game since Kobe. But it all pales in comparison to the dire situation from Monday Night Football. Damar Hamlin, critical condition in the hospital, made a tackle in the first quarter, took a hit to his chest, the team saying in a tweet he went into cardiac arrest, collapsed after making that tackle, received CPR on the field. The Lakers Monday beat the Hornets in Charlotte. LeBron James scores 43, pulls to within 500 of the all-time NBA record. But after the game, the Akron native was expressing concern for what happened in Cincinnati.
My thoughts and super prayers goes up to the skies above for that kid's family, for him, for that brotherhood of the NFL and everybody a part of the NFL family. It's definitely the right call by either whoever made that call, Roger Goodell, or whoever had an opportunity, the authority to make that call to suspend that. The safety of players in all sports is always the most important. So, it was a terrible thing to see, and I wish nothing but the best for that kid, for the city of Buffalo, for the franchise of the Bills, and like I said, for the rest of the NFL too as well, and also the Bengals that was there, playing in that game. So I'm a huge fan of the NFL. I'm a huge fan of football. And, you know, you never want to see anything like that happen, even in the type of competition that they're playing in.
The Bills saying in a tweet, Hamlin is sedated and in critical condition. It was about an hour from the point of the tackle to the postponing of the game by the NFL. The guys who were calling the game, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman.
It's really hard. You know, it's hard just to describe it. I mean, you know, what we all feel. You know, you think about the Hamlin family and what they're all going through. That's the focus. But, you know, this went from a sports story to a news story, from a sporting event to a matter of life and death like that.
Yeah.
And there was a moment when the medical personnel was all out there, and we're standing up here. And unfortunately, like Lisa said, and you guys have been talking about, we've been through a lot of situations in games where we've stood up here and you're watching medical personnel make sure somebody's okay down on the field, and you think they're going through a blow to the head or something along those lines. And it switched quickly. And it went from what is the typical everybody gather around, let's make sure this player is okay, to those who were on the field in his immediate vicinity administering CPR and really pounding on his chest. And a lot of that was not on television. I have no idea what's on social media. I have not checked it, but we were sitting here and I'm looking at Troy and he's looking at me, and it was like, my God, what did this is not what you expected to see. And now, is he okay? And it went on and on and on. And then that's when the players were gathered around so tight that it was hard to even see what was going on. So this was, took your breath away. I'm sick to my stomach if you're asking me how I feel, which nobody cares, but that's what it feels like being here in this stadium tonight, witnessing what we saw right around midfield.
No, I disagree, Joe. I think the perspective of someone who's made his life doing this, calling these games, and has those perspectives of the injuries that thankfully mostly turn out far better. There was an urgency, Troy, that I felt like I noticed immediately, and what I saw on camera that concerned me. It seemed like this was dire, and then quickly it became evident that it was. As a man that made his living doing this and has seen a lot, when you see a young man suddenly fighting for his life, part of this brotherhood that Ryan Clark and I were just speaking of, how do you best describe what that's like to have to watch?
Well, I can only speak of what it was like to watch tonight, because no one's experienced anything like this. Ryan Clark hasn't, as he expressed, and all the other players, Booger McFarland, who was in studio earlier tonight talking about it. And it really is unprecedented, as we know. So you're right. The gravity of the situation became very clear very, very soon. I saw the same things that you were seeing back in studio as far as them administering CPR feverishly.
Plenty of emotion on the field to go along with it as well. Several Bills players could be seen crying as he was being tended to by medical personnel. Other players holding hands, praying, hugging each other. ESPN Bills reporter Elena Getzenberg.
This team talks constantly, I can't tell you, Scott, constantly about how close they are and how much they enjoy spending time together, and that they joke there's not much to do in Buffalo, so they spend time together. It's constantly brought up, comes up in almost every guy you talk to. The team is insanely close, and I think it's important to also remember a guy like DeMar. Micah Hyde's been mentoring him. He's a guy who they've kind of seen grow up and get the spotlight because he's gotten this opportunity, and he is so well liked in that locker room. He was passing out hats actually in support of his charity just this weekend. Saw a couple of guys sporting them. This group is insanely close. They've been together for a while, a lot of them. They've seen guys, DeMar, kind of rise up through the system. Can't say enough about how close this group is and how well liked DeMar is in this building. And this is just an incredibly emotional night. And I really can't say enough about how close this team is how much they're hurting right now.
24-year-old Hamlin from Western PA went to Pitt, drafted in the 6th round of the 2021 draft. The team says he's sedated, in critical condition. The Bills did make the decision to fly back to Buffalo last night. Much more this morning with KJM. They're up next. I'm Jay Reynolds. Back tomorrow with Sports Center all night. It's ESPN Radio.
Coming up next, Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
710 ESPN.
it's Ireland. Happy New Year as we get ready for 2023. Don't forget to make the New Year's resolution to spend each weekday afternoon with Mason and Ireland. We talk all your LA sports, Lakers, Dodgers, Rams, USC, and we goof around a lot too. Mason and Ireland 1 to 4 on ESPN LA.
The biggest show on the radio, Mason and Ireland, returns Tuesday, January 3rd at 1 p.m. on LA's mega sports station, 710 ESPN.
Anyone who has ever needed self-storage knows what a hassle it can be. You have to rent or borrow a truck and then find someone to help you move your stuff. And let's face it, moving furniture and heavy items without damaging them isn't easy. Renting the unit is worse. The hidden fees and admin costs are scarier than the dingy facilities you're leaving your stuff in. Why not use ClosetBox instead? ClosetBox is self-storage without leaving home. They'll pick up your belongings, store them securely, and bring any item back when you need it. The best part? Unlike traditional self-storage, you only pay for what you store. No paying for unused storage space. ClosetBox's background check storage movers are licensed, bonded, and insured and will take care of all of the heavy lifting. ClosetBox's local storage centers are temperature controlled and monitored 24/7. ClosetBox has an A+ rating from the BBB. Call 877-233-5696 now for the season's best rates. Get $50 off first month storage using code RADIO50. That's 877-233-5696. 877-233-5696.
I noticed that my central vision started to blur.
Figures that are usually straight started to distort to become wavy.
What are these little dark spots with blurring that I'm seeing?
There's a blind spot like a blob over my vision now.
Is my vision lost forever? Why did I wait so long to see a retina specialist?
Retinal disease can steal your eyesight, but it doesn't have to. Patients who seek care from a retina specialist in a timely manner have the best chance of preventing vision loss due to age-related macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy. AMD symptoms to look out for are distortion or warping of straight lines, as well as blurred or loss of central vision. Patients with diabetic retinopathy should seek treatment if they notice the appearance of spots or floaters or blurred and distorted vision. Don't delay seeing a retina specialist. It's worth the visit to save your vision so you don't miss out on life's precious moments, like seeing your grandchild grow up, enjoying a sunset with that special someone, or reading a good book. Visit seeforalifetime.org.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
LA's morning show is Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
Oh, you guys get me in the mood for turkey now. Already. You see a wild turkey around Thanksgiving, you're like, you look delicious.
Get your Monday morning started
with Key alongside J. Will and Max.
KJM on 710.
You are never too old for a family. The Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption is dedicated to finding forever families for children who have been waiting in foster care the longest. Learn more at davethomasfoundation.org.
KSPN AM 710 Los Angeles. KRDC AM 1110 Pasadena, Los Angeles.
710 ESPN.
A Good Karma Brands radio station.
This is Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max here on ESPN Radio. Back from the holidays, and wish it was under better circumstances, Jay, but it's not. That's the whole sports world is focused right now on the extremely serious and upsetting event from last night's game. Bills safety Damar Hamlin is in critical condition after suffering cardiac arrest on the field. People watched this happen live. The Bills said in a statement early Tuesday morning that Hamlin, 24, had cardiac arrest following a hit in the first quarter. He collapsed, and the Bills said Hamlin's heartbeat was restored on the field. The Bills said Hamlin is sedated and in critical condition at University of Cincinnati Medical Center. He was taken off the field 16 minutes or so after he collapsed and driven by ambulance to the UC Medical Center. Hamlin's family came down from the stands to be with him in the ambulance. The majority of the Bills team remained at Paycor Stadium well into Monday night. The entire team then left shortly after midnight, returned to Buffalo. The game was postponed. The Bengals were leading at the time. It was Bengals-Bills, of course, 7-3, first quarter. In a conference call shortly after midnight on Tuesday, the NFL did not provide an update on potentially rescheduling the game as the league enters the final week of its regular season. Jay, your thoughts, your reaction from what you saw last night, and your thoughts since then?
Well, first off, when I saw you walking in to the studio and we greeted each other and we said good morning, it gives you a different perspective on having the ability to say good morning, doesn't it? Last night watching the game and seeing the hit occur, I was speechless. I never had witnessed anything like this before in sports. To watch the game go to break multiple times, to watch the sense of urgency build over the course of time, because you saw the hit go to the chest, but you didn't really know what happened. It wasn't until you saw the ambulance being backed out onto the field that you knew it was a next level type of thing. And seeing CPR and in hearing, I think that was the most riveting thing for me, Max. I knew multiple people at the game. So seeing the flurry of texts and things that people were saying who had, firsthand accounts of what was going on was even scarier. And at the time, one of my best friends, his son, played football at Pitt, played with Kenny Pickett, played with Darvin himself. And pretty much just said, Damar Hamlin was one of the nicest guys when I was at Pitt. First guy to say hello when you walk in, brought his younger brother around the facility all the time, hardest working individual. It's just like that, man. Sports.
So for people who missed it last night, Damar Hamlin, who plays for the Bills on defense, tackled T. Higgins, the star receiver for the Bengals. And it looked like a good hit, but a routine enough tackle. And he's doing the tackling. At first, I thought, when I saw it just with a naked eye, it was helmet to helmet, maybe.
It looked like Joe Mixon hit him before Damar really had a chance to. It was more like a grapple for Damar, right? Like to wrap him up. Joe Mixon had to hit on him, it felt like.
Well, he was launching kind of toward T. Higgins, right? I mean, but when you see it in slow motion, what you notice is, as you pointed out, Jay, the head hits the chest and then kind of comes up, careens up. At any rate, so Damar Hamlin gets up from this hit and then kind of staggers and collapses flat on his back. And having watched combat sports for, many years, to me, it looked like a concussion. He had the same kind of symptoms of a concussion. You get up, you're okay, and then you fall backward. But in fact, what happened was blunt force trauma on the chest, and he went into cardiac arrest right there on the field. That was, it was unlike anything I've ever seen.
So, in sports, since I've been a little boy, I played Pop Warner, played basketball, played soccer, played every sport possible pretty much. But within basketball and football, and you hear coaches say this, it's almost conditioned in your brain, Max, from the time I was a little boy. Cliches around death in sports, right? You have to be willing to go to the line. You have to be willing to die for this. You got to be willing to put your life on the line. And maybe in boxing, I think it carries a little bit more of a different weight.
Different, yeah.
Football is definitely one of the most physical sports there is in the world, but you still never think it could truly happen to you, especially something so random like this. Like
That's the scariest thing about football is the apparent arbitrary random nature of injuries where you get hit at the wrong angle and something you've done 1,000 times, suddenly you're paralyzed.
Well, hearing doctors talk about this, it's getting hit in the middle of a rhythm of your heartbeat. Just that timing is so difficult and challenging, but that's the timing that occurred. And that's where you see a guy not breathing for 3 minutes to 9 minutes. So I don't know exactly what the time is because we're still finding out information on that. But, everybody's sitting there saying, and the way I think this morning is like, he's okay, but I still don't know if he's okay. If your brain hasn't received oxygen for 3 to 9 minutes, I don't know if you're okay after that. I pray you are.
Lisa Salters, ESPN NFL sideline reporter, was on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt and reported the following.
It's hard because, like you guys have said, this is a human being, and all you can really think about is, I hope that guy is okay. We've seen players go down with head injuries before, and as horrible as that may sound, we've grown accustomed to it. Seeing guys take hard hits, see them stay down for a little while, get back up, give the thumbs up, and that's all we were all hoping for, was that Damar Hamlin was going to get up and that he was going to get on in that ambulance. He was going to give us a thumbs up, and we were all going to know that he was okay. And when that didn't happen, I think this entire stadium was just devastated. I mean, right now, all I can really think about is that player, his teammates, just seeing the agony on their faces, the concern on their faces. They're scared for him right now, and they should be. We all should be. But to see them hugging each other, down on their knees, praying for him, his coach, the other team, their head coach, those players, just to see how much unity and just unified concern that they all had for this young man. It's been overwhelming. There's a pall over the stadium right now. Like you said, Scott, you come to work, we're expecting to see the game of the season, and what we got was so terrible, but that doesn't really matter. All that really matters is Damar Hamlin and his family, and we just can't say it enough that we hope that he's okay.
That was Lisa Salters to Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter, reporting from the scene. The NFL statement on the Bills and Bengals game last night is the following. Tonight's Buffalo Bills-Cincinnati Bengals game has been postponed after Buffalo Bills' Damar Hamlin collapsed, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell announced. Hamlin received immediate medical attention on the field by team and independent medical staff and local paramedics. He was then transported to a local hospital where he is in critical condition. Our thoughts are with Damar and the Buffalo Bills. We will provide more information as it becomes available. The NFL has been in constant communication with the NFL Players Association, which is in agreement with postponing the game.
So Lisa Salter says something there at the beginning of her statement that is something that we've all grown accustomed to. Me as a player, I've never grown accustomed to stuff like that. And I could tell you players have too. Why do you think players recite "Man in the Arena" all the time? By Teddy Roosevelt, right? Just to remind people what that says, it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the door of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but Max, as players multiple times, if that was Tua, you've seen how teammates react to that, how they handle that. You've heard stories. 6 years ago, I met Ryan Clark here at ESPN at the Doubletree Hotel. I remember the situation with Ryan Clark, and he accounts about, he told it last night on SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt about players literally coming to the hospital, checking in on his life because he went through something devastating. It can happen to people in sports, and you realize when you're in the midst of the arena that the fan, when you call players certain names or certain things, that's why players react that way, because they realize that they're literally at times putting their life on the lines.
Especially in the NFL. You know, those are big guys going at high speeds and And even in combat sports like boxing, for example, you can see this guy's too tough for his own good. This other guy's not a big enough puncher to take him out. He's taking too many clean headshots. They need to stop this fight. Very rarely is it one shot, unless a guy comes into the fight with a pre-existing condition he's not aware of, maybe, right? But otherwise, it's not like one shot. But as you can see in football, at that level, it can be one play, and your life can be in jeopardy. And Damar Hamlin's is now, and that will be the focus not only on this show today, but throughout the day, obviously. And you know, the sports world is considering what happened last night and reflecting on it and reporting on it and thinking about it. And it needless to say, people's thoughts are with Damar Hamlin and his family.
And I'm glad they suspended the game. I'm glad they did the right thing, because at that time, it's not about football anymore. It's not about playoff implications. I could care less. It's about this young man's life.
You mentioned Ryan